Okay, we will call to order the regular meeting of the Batavia City Council for Monday, October 3rd, 2016. And ask you all please rise for a brief invocation to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, as always, we are ever mindful of the many sacrifices that are being given to our state and the nation and by those in our armed services. And we just ask that a special blessing be showered upon each and every one of these men and women from our community and from throughout the nation who are serving so ably in defense of our liberties. Tonight, we also want to remember that we are in the fall season and that we will enjoy the beauties of Mother Nature and the coming things of the holiday season that will occur thereafter. So this is an eventful time of the year, and we just ask that Batavia be blessed with a lot of kindness and volunteerism and sharing with others as we emerge into this season and try to support our fellow members of our community. Tonight, as always, we also want to ask for guidance and direction as we act on the various items of business before us, knowing that each and every one of us is here to do what in our own best hearts and minds is in the best interest of the community. We ask for all these blessings. Amen.
Amen.
Alderman Rosado, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Brown?
Here.
Rosado?
Here.
Atek? Here. Stark?
Here.
Chancet?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Alderman Fisher's absent. Alderman O'Brien's absent. Callahan?
Here.
Holman? Absent. Mueller?
Here.
Alderman Cerrone?
Here.
And Alderman McFadden.
Here.
Okay, let the record reflect that 11 of the 14
One
members.
moment, please. Here as well, louder.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Boy, oh boy.
So we do have 11 of the 14 elected members of the city council present, accountants, so we have the necessary quorum to conduct business. All right, moving on to item number 4, items to be removed, added, or changed on the agenda. Do we have anything?
I'm unaware of anything, Your Honor.
Oh, pardon?
I'm unaware of anything.
Okay. The only thing and I was given this, we have this letter of resignation that I'll just read under the mayor's report, I guess, and so that we'll take care of it that way, and then I'll announce what the procedures for filling the vacancy, so.
Okay.
All right, moving then to item 5, the consent agenda. Alderman Atek.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Accept and place on file August 2016 financials, approval September 23rd, 2016 payroll in the amount of $769,245.34. Accounts payable check register in the amount of $1,771,792.28. Resolution 16-82-R amending professional services agreement. I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Atek, second by Alderman McFadden for the approval of the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Atek?
Aye.
Stark? Aye. Chancet? Wolf?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Mueller?
Aye.
Bodeman?
Aye.
Cerrone?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye. Motion for the approval of the consent agenda is approved, 11 yes, no no's, 3 absent. Moving to item 3, matters from the public for items not on the agenda. Do we have anything this evening? Okay, moving to item number 7, which is the report of the Batavia Chamber of Commerce, and we're honored to have the Executive Director, Holly, here with us.
Hello. We actually have a lot going on this month through the Chamber of Commerce, so it's going to take a couple minutes to go through my report, but I wanted to thank, first of all of the members of city staff and the Shodine Corporation who participated in our event and meeting on September 16th. We had and invited all of the businesses and business owners that were going to be impacted by the One Washington development to come in and have basically a panel discussion. They were able to directly ask the people within the city of Batavia questions about some of the concerns that they have about the development. And I think that it was a great show of communication and support by the city staff, and spend that much time and devote all of that to the commitment of that to all of those business owners. So really appreciate all that participation. So we have a lot coming up in October. On Friday, October 7th at 3 o'clock, we have a ribbon cutting for Buddha, Gandhi, and Me, located at 11 East Wilson Street. You will be enlightened, I'm sure, if you come to that. Again, on October 7th at 4 o'clock, we're also holding a ribbon cutting for Prairie Wellness Counseling Center. They were upstairs at 12 Washington Street, West Washington. They have now moved downstairs and expanded and did quite a bit of reconstruction of that bottom floor. So they are having a grand reopening of their space there. On Monday, October 10th at 4:30, we're having a 5th anniversary and ceremonial ribbon cutting at Nick Neindorf's office of Edward Jones at 812 North Randall Road. That's right down by Smashburger there in the what I like to call the Trader Joe's building there. Then on Tuesday, October 11th at 11:30, we are having the Batavia Women in Business Luncheon at Mill Creek. We will have Molly Rodberg-Leschnack from the yoga mat to the corner office. So she's talking about best business practices. On Wednesday, October 12th from 5 till 7, it is apparently International Credit Union Day. So we are partnering with the Aurora Regional Chamber for business after hours at Earth Mover Credit Union on Orchard Road in North Aurora. On Thursday, October 13th at 11, we have our Fall Into Business Multi-Chamber Progressive Luncheon. We are one of 9 chambers that are partnering on this one, and that is going to be held at Villa Olivia. On Thursday, October 13th at 1:30, we have a ribbon cutting at Proforce Sports Performance Training. They're located like in the back lot of the Campana building. Officially, their address is 501 West Fabian. Second page. On Monday, October 17th at 10:45, we are partnered with the Greater Oak Brook Business Leaders to welcome Governor Bruce Rauner and U.S. Representative Peter Roscom. They're going to talk about what they are doing to foster economic development. And then again, that's at 10:45 on October 17th. That's at College of DuPage. So if you're interested in being in the same room with those two powerful gentlemen, please join us for that. On Wednesday, October 19th from 4 until 6, we have another multi-chamber networking event with Aurora and Geneva at K. Hollis Jewelers. Tuesday, October 25th at 3, we have a special presentation by a current resident of Batavia. His name is Jim Rogers. He is an author and teacher of 30 years, former All-American and Hall of Fame football player. And he is going to be presenting on what he's calling running the gauntlet. So he should be great, and that's actually right here in the City Council chambers. Friday, October 28th at 10 a.m., ribbon cutting for Sports Clips. That's actually on Kirk Road in Aurora. Sunday, October 30th at 2 o'clock, we have a ribbon cutting for Ann K. Salon on Genesis Drive in North Aurora. To register for any of these events and to learn more about what's going on at the Batavia Chamber, please check out our website at bataviachamber.org. Any questions? Anything else you think we're not bringing to, obviously when we have this many ribbon cuttings, that's a show of great strength of our business community. Either businesses are investing in chamber membership, which means a good thing for their commitment to our community. Also, it means some new businesses that are opening up in our community, which is also a great show for the future of our community. And it gives me a lot of hope in what I think is going to be a great expansion of our business community in the coming years. So any questions or anything, don't hesitate to give me a call. We're happy to put on, obviously, lots of different kinds of events in our community to strengthen our businesses here and in the Fox Valley area. Without any further ado, I have to present to you this evening a fine gentleman that just opened a business here in Batavia. His name is Jason Kappas, and he is the owner of Aqueduct Plumbing Services. The mayor was kind enough to come down a couple of weeks ago to do a ribbon cutting for them at their business here on Wilson Street, and had a great story to tell about what famous location his building is in. So just wanted to welcome Jason Kappas from Aqueduct Plumbing.
Thank you, Holly. City of Batavia officials, members, and of course the Chamber of Commerce. My name is Jason Kappas, and I'm a plumber, and I'm also one of the owners of Aqueduct Plumbing Services. Aqueduct Plumbing Services provides to local businesses and Batavia homeowners, such as most of you, an honest approach to plumbing by bringing plumbing services back to the basics. By establishing a very important factor, not only to you, but to your home and business, by establishing what is important, and that is trust, which starts as a commitment and a company policy of Aqueduct Plumbing Services. And that is, Aqueduct Plumbing Services is committed to all customers, full transparency in the explanation to their problems or tasks that may have at hand, by passing on to you a professional service that is affordable, without sacrificing quality of product or the overall craftsmanship of the trade. Aqueduct Plumbing was founded in 2010 and then formed a corporation in 2013 to become Aqueduct Plumbing Services. We are a local family-owned business and operated and uphold all bonds, licensing, and insurance to operate as such. Our plumbers also hold State of Illinois Department of Public Health credentials, and independently, our plumbers include myself, have over 23 years of experience in the trade with accredited education to support our training. Some services that we do provide are residential plumbing, tankless water heaters and standard residential water heaters, sinks, tubs, toilets and faucets, sump pumps, ejector pumps, toilet repairs, replace and installs, battery backup pump systems, drains and pipe repairs, drain cleaning, video sewer locating, sewer repair and clean out installations, frozen pipes thawed, main sewer rottings, hydrojetting and services, bathroom rough-in and remodels, garbage disposals, water line repairs, gas detection and repairs, water filtration and purification, and also to include commercial plumbing services. We are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can find us at 837 East Wilson Street in Batavia, Illinois. Or you may call us at 630-504-9594. Or you can visit us on our website at www.aqueductplumbingservices.com. And that is AQUADUCT, not the traditional way aqueduct is spelled. Or you can visit us and like us on our Facebook page, where we post most of our specials on products for services that we provide and announcements, and even contests to win neat things for free. Or become a part in ways what we like to exercise in paying it forward, as well as a food drive we are planning for our up and coming Thanksgiving holiday, and a toy drive in December as our way of giving back to the community from our services. We forecast to bring in the next year an additional employment for laborers, apprentices, and licensed plumbers to add to our exciting family and business. Our first year was about under $100,000 in gross sales. Just past year, we've been short of $216,000 in gross sales. And this year, we're on target to reach $350,000 in gross sales, and growing by an overwhelming response of our services that we are able to provide, all by the business policies that we share and pass on to the consumer, but not to exclude our flawless customer feedback and reviews of our services in which our customers have received and shared with us. By providing this level of service and commitment, we have earned the 2016 Expertise Award. This award was done by a third-party independent survey on Aqueduct Plumbing Services. The criteria met for this award is also posted on our website as a banner at the bottom, and you can click on. In short, Aqueduct Plumbing Services was considered one of the best 25 plumbing companies in the Chicagoland area out of 950 other plumbing companies considered based on reputation, credibility, experience, availability, professionalism, and overall engagement. With all this mentioned, we are not only proposed to add to help assist employment within the city of Batavia, but we do project within the next years in spending in training, employment, as well as taxes, bonds, and permitting with local building development and Batavia in excess of $100,000. In raw material and goods and additional services, $75,000 to $80,000 additional spending or greater to other local businesses within our community. And this number also includes marketing and advertising. At this time, I have no input on any zoning issues or city codes at this time. However, I am aware of where to receive such information if it is deemed an importance when it comes to that time. However, I will say I am pleased to see the action taken to upkeep our community's roads and new pavement markings as they have been uneasy to see at night, especially on Wilson Avenue. Mr. Mayor, City of Batavia and officials, and a warm thank you to the hospitality of the City of Chamber of Commerce here for Batavia. I want to thank you for this opportunity tonight to speak amongst them all of you, as well as introduce our company to you this evening at your panel, your fellow viewers at BATV as well, and your fellow guests in attendance. And at this time, I wanted to thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to Batavia, and we wish you many years of business growth and prosperity. So thank you for choosing us. And
I thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
okay, moving to item number 8 is the administrator's report. Laura?
Well, as I said, I don't have too many items for the administrator's report this week because Rahat Bari, our engineering manager, and I last week were at the Wisconsin Public Utilities Institute at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, where we received 28 hours of instruction on a full panoply of issues facing public utilities. Everything talking about generation, transmission, distribution, rate structuring, renewables, as well as 1 half-day, very in-depth on the natural gas industry and how that affects more traditional lines of power generation as well. So it was an extremely valuable course. Both of us came away with a very positive impression that it was definitely a value for our money. But when I did come back on Friday morning, I met with Main Street. And Main Street wanted to discuss with me the fact that they had received from a donor $25,000 to be used for a project for Batavia Main Street, as well as they have their own funds of $25,000. And within the course of the next 2 years, they would like to apply this to a project benefiting Main Street. One of the things that I think maybe some of us have noticed some signs around town with regard to wayfinding. It's a means of directing people who are on their bikes or foot traffic to areas of interest in our downtown community. However, they're just doing this sort of as a off the cuff at this time. In order to properly do wayfinding, one would engage a firm to do a wayfinding study to determine where to direct people and where to direct them from. So we discussed that. I think that the Main Street had come before City Council perhaps back in May to talk about this a little bit and just merely to begin the discussions of how the city and Main Street might work together on this project. But one of the things that we have going on at the same time is our branding initiative. We put out the request for proposal. We've received 10 responses, 10 very good responses to that request for proposal. There's a staff meeting tomorrow morning to go over and discuss the proposals that were received and the next steps that we might take. But as I was meeting with Main Street, it came to me that perhaps this branding project and the wayfinding project that Main Street is engaging in might have some crossover. So I just wanted to present the idea to you that without increasing the cost of the branding project, if there were a way that we could work in that type of study, we'd like to keep our minds open to doing that. And I just wanted to know if all of you would be on board with that direction that we would take, or if you have some other ideas about it.
Are you talking about combining wayfinding and branding into a single project, or I would probably be hesitant to do that. And
Okay.
would do branding as its own thing, because that's a big animal all by itself. So I would be more in favor of doing the branding, but when it comes time to, perhaps involve Main Street on some level, and I'm sure they would be within the branding, because it'll all tie together, and once the branding's in place, then the wayfinding sort of can naturally follow. And we'll have the brand established and the guidelines to go along with it to guide us as we do the wayfinding portion of it.
Okay.
So that would be the way I'd go.
Sounds good.
Alderman Stark?
I think that was what the problem was before, is we got into this putting the cart before the horse part of it. And we had decided that we wanted to make sure that we had our branding locked down first, and then the wayfinding would come with it. But Main Street didn't want to wait that long. And so that's where we got into that. They were like, well, we want to spend this money now. And we were like, well, we don't want to do one without the other, if my memory serves me correctly.
But you said
Yes.
they had a 2-year time?
Yeah, they have a 2-year time frame, and when I explained the time frame as we see it on the branding issue happening in perhaps first or second quarter of next year, they felt very comfortable with that kind of timing. And so, yeah, proceed with the branding initially, and then follow that with the wayfinding. I think sounds like a good way to go.
I think from a skill set perspective, too, of the people we engage, those are somewhat different skill sets.
Anybody else have any input on that?
And I also wanted to bring up, there were a couple of situations of dangerous conditions around town that were brought up at previous meetings. One of those was the sidewalk on the west side of South Batavia Avenue, south of Wilson Avenue. The contractor began to replace the broken bricks on those sidewalks on September 28th. And also another dangerous condition that was brought up by Alderman Atack, the railing along North Batavia Avenue. It was Alderman Stark, sorry.
It was wrong in the minute.
But nonetheless, Public Works has gone to that area to try to re-shore up, match the railings up again, so that the bottom area where it's cut off is no longer a tripping hazard.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's all that I have, unless there are questions for me.
And the Brayburn Marsh burn, we've got some news on that, do we not?
The Brayburn Marsh, I do not have an update on that. As I recall, we were initially scheduled to have that burned this fall, but I'm just not sure of the timing of it, so I apologize. I don't have the exact information.
I thought when you and I talked the other day, we were looking at the end of October or something, when it dries out a little bit.
Right.
As I've shared with you, I'm concerned about that, because that's a 2 or 3 year growing season out there now that hasn't been burned off. And
Right.
some of that stuff is, I have pictures I took, I don't gonna bore you with them tonight, but some of those weeds are 10 feet tall out there, and they're dying, and last year's grew, and they're all still laying, all that stuff's still laying on the ground there. And as most of you know, we did have a very serious fire incident out there at the first part of November last year. That Chief Dikey and his men got ahead of it, fortunately, and we caught it on a moment when all of our neighboring mutual aid departments were in quarters, so Elburn and North Aurora were able to bring their brush pumpers up, and they got into the field, and we got it stopped right before it got to that real heavy-duty part of the Brayburn Marsh there behind Sam's Club. So I think it was, I received several comments from people in the townhouses there behind Kohl's and that about how scary it was when that thing took off, because it was a cut cornfield, and it was mostly the corn stalks that were burning, and it was heading north to the marsh. So I'm really concerned about that now, because we're now into, I think, year 3 of that thing growing with no burn off on it, and we really need to do this. And the portion of it that's between Fabian Parkway and Randall Road behind Trader Joe's is controlled by Kane County. So we've had several conversations with them, and in the last couple of weeks, somebody went out there with a chisel and cut off a bunch of it, but it's all still laying there. They cut it down, but nothing got burned. And I think the part of it that concerns me is that there's a big chunk of it that runs behind the houses there in Brayburn subdivision. And some of those residents have talked to me about how big that stuff's getting to be back in there. And I think it is problematic. So we continue to have conversations with our friends at Kane County about the need to burn that off. But the county is under, like everybody else, they're under significant financial constraints, and so they're not in a real hurry to want to take on anything more than what they already have planned to do. But we hopefully will get, the city controls it from the Randall Road west to the Trout Farm subdivision there off of McKee Street. It's about 108 acres, and we are going to burn that part of it off hopefully this fall yet. So we're working on that. So
It's definitely a priority project for Public Works. I know that Rahat is talking with Andrea, and tomorrow I'll send out an email to City Council letting you know exactly what the plan will be for Rayburn Marsh.
Alderman Brown?
Yeah, Your Honor, thank you. Laura, I don't know if everybody had a chance, in my mailbox tonight was a letter from Buzz Miller about the sculpture idea that he's got, and I don't know if everybody had a chance to see it or not, but I'm just wondering if maybe tomorrow night we couldn't just bring it up under the committee, and if you could be prepared a little bit to talk about the process that we've got going and where we're at in the process, so we would be able to maybe make some decisions as to whether or not we want to pursue this idea.
Sure.
Yeah, Buzz was kind enough to call me and chat, and I think he's had it in the head that this is going to be, there's some piece of art that has already previously been submitted that Linnea had a very strong passion for, and he would like, I guess, to donate that piece to it in memory of her and her family in the near term here. And I think it's a nice offer and one that we should give very serious consideration to. I know we've still got 2 pods to fill on the bridge there, and so this would be one opportunity. You know, those things have not been inexpensive when we bought them, and so this could be a little bit of a savings to the taxpayers here if we have a donation of one of these. So that.
And it may even be appropriate to give Buzz a call and ask him if he'd like to come down to the meeting tomorrow night, too.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Alderman Stark?
When you and Laura were gone last week, Gary Holm did come in and talk to us about the Brayburn Marsh, and did talk to us quite at length about working with the county and how they're hoping to do it and use the scale of economy to use the same contractor to do the burn on both our portion and the county portion. Then he did assure us that it would get done sooner versus later. So, yep, you miss a week, you miss a lot, Mr. Mayor.
I mean, the county is really expressing their serious concerns about finances these days, as I think all of us should, but I know they've kind of been really reeling in the expenditures up there, so but this is one that, you know, is not going to go away, and it really needs to be done, or some night we'll have a big exciting time here if that thing takes off and starts burning, because it really can make for a brief period it's burning, and it looks like it's a phenomenal fire out there, especially with the inventory of dead brush that's underneath what's growing there now. That's the scary part about it. Definitely. Anything else?
No.
Or any questions for City Administrator?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Committee reports. Alderman Brown, Community Development.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tomorrow evening's Committee of the Whole meeting, we've got a few items on the agenda. We've got Ordinance 16-60 and Ordinance 16-60 and Ordinance 16-60 and Resolution 16-81 for the Windmill Manor Apartments, which is proposed to be at 2400 Hawks Drive. It's a project that came in front of the city council back in 2011, and it's taken some time for them to be able to get their state credits and what have you to move forward, but it's now moving forward. Been through plan commissions, and now it's coming to the committee of the whole and then on to the city council. The other two items that are on the agenda are video gambling discussion or video gaming discussion rather, and then the discussion on whether we should consider televising the committee of the whole meetings. And I would like to add to that conversation, if I could, Alan, if we're going to televise committee of the whole, we should televise the plan commission also. So maybe that could be part of the conversation. Plan commission for this coming Wednesday has been canceled, and the historic preservation for next Monday, I believe would be the 10th, is scheduled for 5:30. That's all I have.
Government Services, Alderman Atek.
Government Services does not have anything on the meeting tomorrow night, and we still need to figure out what we're going to have for the rest of the month regarding government services issues. So,
Okay.
nothing.
City Services, Alderman Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. As Alderman Brown already noted, we're going to talk about televising the committee of the whole meetings, and I guess now we'll talk about Plan Commission, figuring out how we're going to do that. That's all I have.
And Alderman O'Brien is absent from Public Utilities. Does anybody in the? No report. No report? All right. Do we have other business from the council? Alderman Callahan.
Just real quick, I've been approached by, and no other aldermen have been approached by different people about possibly having a discussion about the overnight parking ban, not necessarily to boot it out in its entirety, but there are some ideas about maybe modifying it, bringing it up to some situations that we have in currently with a lot of people, as we know, living and staying home, 28, 29 years old, and their families, and you've got too many cars at a house and they don't know what to do. Cars blocking the driveways and the sidewalks. I think we have some ideas out there that we should talk about. So I'd like to present that for maybe Government Services to put on the agenda. Would that be Government Services? Existing statute?
It could be.
It could be. Might as well be.
Yeah.
So sometime in the next few weeks, it obviously won't be tomorrow night.
Right. No, not for tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'd support that. I've been contacted by somebody also with a very similar issue. Too many cars, adult children living at home.
Right.
Your Honor, I would suggest that before we put that on an actual agenda, we give staff opportunity to prepare for that discussion.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yep.
I think it would involve police, fire, public works, the whole.
I filled in the chief as to where it was going.
Yeah, I've been approached too and discussed it kind of in the background and gotten some feedback, and so I didn't feel there was a lot of support at this time, but it's worth discussing.
I'd be interested in hearing more from staff. It feels like we talked about the issue a couple of 2-3 times over the last 6 years that I've been here, and I thought the resolution was to maintain status quo. So I'd love to hear if there's been any changes in the last 6 years.
I mean, it's a complex issue because, you know, once you do it, suddenly there's a bunch of neighbors that didn't realize you were doing it, and suddenly there's cars parked in front of their house all night, and then they get all excited. So there's pros and cons to this thing.
I've been a victim of enforcement that is on one night and off another night. So I've paid some extra taxes this year to the city.
I understand some cities have talked about if you really want to get into this, that they should apply a fee to it instead of a parking ticket that you, and they say that's really an attention getter because if they get the bill every month for parking that car out on the street, that, now I'm sure that won't be well received by everybody, but I know that's an idea that's been kicked around. I suppose we could nose around and see if there's some cities who actually have done it and find out what the history has been on that. But
I just remember the information that the staff presented to us was it was meant as a safety thing. It was meant to prevent people from parking overnight and creating opportunities for crimes to be committed. In fact, if I remember in the first ward, didn't they catch
Right.
criminals in the process of, like, there was a ring of people breaking into homes as a result of this particular rule.
Right.
Now then again, in my subdivision of 168 houses where there's not enough parking, we would love to be able to park on the street there. So it's definitely something we should look at, but I just want to see if there's anything that's changed substantially. since
Yeah, and I-
brought the report to us.
Yeah, and I know the one of the concerns is about parking. Do you have a car in an area that it's supposed to be? And I think there are ways maybe we can finesse and figure out some compromises here. And even when you're talking about safety, we can't do anything about some of the traffic that we have patterns going through our town, through our neighborhoods at night. And if you open up your window, you can hear the some of that might be, park some cars on the street, it might slow it down, kind of, it's the idea of the bump outs too. So there's pros and cons for some of that. You
If
might
there's some
have,
common sense solutions, it would help my neighborhood, so
Yeah.
I would appreciate it.
yeah.
I would like to see a list of the pros and cons. I mean, we don't want to see cars just parked on the street permanently either. So that would probably have to be part of the discussion.
Right, and I don't think anybody's thinking that. And I don't, even from what I've heard from people, we're not talking about an outright ban. You find out those situations where people are having problems. You got too many cars or just not enough parking. You don't make it on arterial roads or collector roads. Those, you wouldn't want it on that anyways. But if we can update and modernize our ordinances in line with what's going on, there might be some practical solutions and still maintain the integrity of what the purpose of the ordinance originally was.
All right, we done with that one? Any other business? Okay, going to the mayor's report. Well, first of all, I have a letter of resignation from the city council to read. Addressed to myself, dear Mr. Mayor and members of the Batavia City Council. It is with deep regret that I announce my resignation from the City Council of Batavia effective immediately. I am moving out of state and will no longer be available to continue as Ward 1 Alderman. Please know that I have thoroughly appreciated and enjoyed the opportunity to serve with each and every one of you to further the development of this amazing city. I am proud of our collective achievements and the significant progress we have made toward improving our community. As a board and as individuals, you are all tremendously talented, committed, and I feel lucky to have been on your side these years. I look forward to seeing your many future accomplishments in the days ahead. Sincerely, Carl R. Fisher, Alderman, Ward 1. So I'd entertain a motion to accept this letter with regret.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Atek, second by Alderman Brown, to accept the resignation of Carl Fisher as Ward 1 Alderman. Clerk, call the roll.
Atek?
Aye.
Stark? Aye. Chansett?
Aye.
Wolf?
No.
Callahan?
No.
Mueller?
Aye.
Boderman?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye. So that vote is 2 no and 9 yes? Okay. All right, so as we have done previously when we have a kind of a midterm resignation on the city council, now the city attorney, you guys had researched this, and this, because he's doing it within the petition time for the next election, this would go on the ballot as a 2-year seat, right?
We have to double check that, but I think that's right, yeah.
That was when we talked about this the other night when he said he was going to do it. So this may be a very short-term appointment. So to move things along, what I would propose is as of tonight, we will put out the public notice and marks here that any eligible resident of the first ward who is of legal age and what are the other, you can't be a convicted felon,
Yeah.
and you have to be a resident for a year.
For a year, yes.
Yeah, you have to live in town for a year. We would entertain their applications if they would be so kind as to send them down to City Hall to my attention. And we will give that until the Committee of the Whole meeting on October 18th, which is 2 weeks. It gives everybody a little time to talk about it. And then on the 18th, I would envision we would have the applications, and we would invite in on that night then the folks that have applied. And as we've done previously, we'll do an interview with them, and all of you will get to hear what everybody's got to say. And then we would, as we've done previously, the council will make the decision as to who gets appointed, and we would then roll over, and that person would then assume office at the first city council meeting in November, which would be on the 7th. So it's about a month downtime, but I don't know how we can hurry it up much more than that, given the constraints of the moment here. This one kind of came out of nowhere at me, so there wasn't a lot of time to react to it, but is everybody okay with that?
And then for clarification, Mayor, that individual then would, or not, that seat would also be
Would be on the ballot.
So we'd have both first ward seats on
Both
the
first
ballot.
ward seats would be up this year.
And it would be specified, one is a 2-year term?
One's a 2-year term and one's a 4-year term. And
Janet and I had that. Yeah.
because everybody on this side, let's see, it's everybody on this side of the room that's up for, from myself on, is up for reelection. So Mike O'Brien's would be the 4-year term, and Carl's seat would be the 2-year term. And so that's the way that would go.
But somebody would have to specify, I want to run for the 2-year term, or I
Right,
want to run for
right.
You do have to do that.
a little
That's happened a
strategizing
couple
there.
of times where we've had, you know, eight seats up for election.
Right.
I had, we had a meeting up at the county this afternoon of many of the mayors in the county over, we were discussing 911, and as a sidebar conversation I had back there, one of the other cities asked me, they were have had some discussions about increasing salary of public officials. And I kind of chuckled when they asked me that, because I said, well, we haven't raised any public officials' salary in Batavia since, I think it was 2007 or 8, before, when it was right when the recession hit, and we used to raise them 2.5% or something. It wasn't very much, but we haven't raised any now. This will be 8 years, and the time to do it for this next term that will begin in May, I think, is expired. We couldn't even begin to discuss it now, because once the petitions are available on the street, and Chris tells me that they are now, that terminates the ability to raise the salary for the next 4 years, so that it'll be a 12-year run here that the city of Batavia hasn't raised, because now this is going to go to 2021, at least for everybody on this side of the room. So, and this side of the room, if we wanted to, in 2 years, I guess they could raise it, but then everybody here would have to run again to get that raise that's approved. So 2021 is the next time any public official in this town is going to get a raise. So as a result of it, nobody's going to be able to say, well, gee, you guys are really gouging it up down there, because there hasn't been a raise now 12 years when it's all over and said and done with. So I don't think anybody's here looking for a raise anyway, but I'm just sharing that. I was almost humored by it when I was asked today, because some other towns, I guess, are battling this out about raising salaries of public officials. And we're just down here doing our thing with not even having those conversations. So that one is kind of over. Moving to the mayor's report, I just want to take a couple minutes and share some conversations with you. As all of you know, I serve as the chairman of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning's Council of Mayors, and I'm also on the executive board of the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, so I'm in Chicago with some regularity. And in those two groups, I get to meet with all these various lobbyists and special interest groups and people that are out pandering things. And I just wanted to share with you an experience we had. We met 2 weeks ago today in Oak Brook at the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. And at that meeting, we were visited by the folks that are running the constitutional amendment that's going to be on the ballot in November, that wants to put a lockbox on the inability of to prohibit the ability of the state of Illinois to touch any money that's designated for transportation. In other words, take it from one account and move it to another, because in state government, that happens in Illinois with some regularity. So a lot of the construction folks and the contractors and road builders and all these folks have all got together, and they put a $2 million pot of money supposedly on the street. So you're starting to see some TV commercials now about why people should vote for this, because you want to keep all this money on the street and use it for what it's intended to be, you know, whether it be motor fuel tax or federal taxes or whatever, that there's a lot of money there. Motor fuel specifically is a big pot of money, and that you're not taking this money and moving it off into some other spending area other than transportation. And so they came in, and I want to tell you, they had assembled, and are paying for this, a star-studded political team in Illinois to go out statewide and run this referendum on this constitutional amendment that's going to be on the ballot. And so they ran it through the executive order of the mayor's caucus, and when they got done, everybody, all of us just sat there and looked at each other. And so finally one of us says, you know, this is an interesting idea. I can certainly understand why we want to make sure we got money for transportation, but I got to tell you, this mayor says, as a public official in the Chicagoland region, this scares me, because if you lockbox this money, then the state of Illinois, which is in serious problems, is going to look for some other money to go after. And probably the easiest pot to the next one to attach would be the LGDF, the Local Government Distributing Fund, which is the state's contribution to municipalities through state income tax. And originally under the Illinois Constitution, when it was originally done, the municipalities got 12% of this, I believe it was 12% of the total amount of money collected under state income tax, and then it was redistributed to the cities on a per capita basis. And over the period of the next several administrations, well, this goes back to, I believe, 1970, there's been some efforts to reduce this number. So it's down now under 10%. It may be closer to 6%. I don't know if we know for sure exactly what it is, but the states already helped themselves to quite a little bit of this, of the municipal share. So they were saying, well, you know, you don't have the opportunity to go after any of the road money. You're probably going to look to come after the municipal money. And so needless to say, after that conversation took place, the mayor's caucus took no action on either endorsing or opposing this constitutional amendment for the lockbox. But they said, woe be it to us that we would get this out there and suddenly kind of shoot ourselves in the foot, because suddenly they'll be coming after our pot of money. So the next thing we got into was this current status of the budget situation in the state of Illinois. And so we have some high-powered lobbyists of our own that come in and give us a conversation about what's going on in the state of Illinois as it applies toward the budget. And at the end of the day, basically, we were advised that what is happening in Illinois right now with the inability of the state to, number one, create a budget or execute it, and with the existing deficits that were already on the table, and with this lack of any revenue of any magnitude coming in, that the prediction in the room was, politicians beware, because after January 1st, all bets are off. The election will be held in November, and all the state general assembly will be reelected or voted out or whatever will happen. And the governor's got his campaign going to do his reforms, and there's all the, so there's a prediction that this next year in 17 could be one of the more challenging years that the local governments in Illinois have ever faced, as far as their ability to have any type of new finances. And the state has this atrocious debt that they've got to try to even begin to pay back, much less try to fund a lot of new stuff. So at the end of the day, you came out of there kind of shaking your head, wondering, you know, what's going on. Well, I come back and chat with Peggy, and I mean, our finances aren't all that bad. We've done, I think, thanks to Peggy and the staff, a pretty good job of running our city budget here. But I guess I would just fire a shot across our bow here and tell you that, I mean, the suggestions out there that all of us are going to be challenged as far as funding things and paying for things, and that this could be the most difficult time in the history of the state of Illinois as far as paying for stuff. And Peggy, our local government distributing fund now is about 2 million, how is it?
2.5 million.
2.5 million? So, you take that away from us, it probably wouldn't put us out of business, but we'd certainly be squeaking.
It's 10% of our budget.
Budget, right. So I just want us all, I wanted to preface this as we begin our discussions for the budget for next year, that, we aren't going to be, when we pass the budget in December, we're not going to have the luxury of knowing the answer to what the state legislature is or is not going to do to us as it applies to this fund or anything else. At the end of the day, and going back to Oak Brook, the prediction is that, the state of Illinois is probably going to come back with some kind of some new taxes. And, there's a lot of ideas as to what those new taxes may be, but there was a lot of predictions that nothing can be done without some new revenue coming in, and that the state of Illinois, nothing to do with us, but the state of Illinois is going to have to quickly find some revenue here, or there's going to be some people hurting for certain. Interestingly, there's some cities out there that are highly dependent on the local government distributing fund, and if you were to take that away from them, you would probably almost make some of them insolvent, and they would be looking to, throw themselves up in the air and say, we're out of business. And so that could be another new wrinkle that could hit. So I don't know where this is all going, but I'd like to be able to sit here and talk, bright picture to you instead of doom and gloom, but this is some fairly serious stuff. Then when we got through with that discussion, we had a review of the electrical situation in the state of Illinois, and that's another, there's been a bunch of shots fired across the bow on that one. And of course, we've always, since we got ourselves involved with Prairie State, we've always been, in the higher end of the electrical rates, and we've had a lot of people that were not happy with that decision. And be that right or wrong, I think that's still debatable. But what we are now faced with is that the Commonwealth Edison and the electrical industry folks have put together their star-studded team of political operatives, and they've hired as an example, they hired the executive director's assistant from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus to come to work for them, and they've hired the guy who was running the Will County Governmental League. There's a number of folks that have been brought on staff with them, and they are apparently getting ready to go to Springfield, or I guess they already are in Springfield. And now this should be interesting for Batavia ratepayers, because this probably won't impact us a lot in comparison to those who are customers with the bigger utilities, but they're asking for a significant increase, not in the cost of energy, but in the cost of transformation and distribution. And it's going to be a major cost increase that those outside of Batavia are going to be paying for the price of their power. And they have the idea in mind that they're not going to play around with the cost of energy, but they are going to play around with the cost of transformation and distribution. Ironically, at the same time, Edison or Exelon has just announced that they have made a decision to shut down two of their nuclear reactors in Illinois, one down in Clinton, Illinois, and the other one out in Cordova on the Mississippi River. And that will remove from their power grid a significant amount of power. And in the old laws of supply and demand that you learn when you take an economics class in school, there isn't going to be as much out there as there is now. And, there's some, at least at my meeting the other day, there was some opinion that this is going to goose the price of electricity, in the places outside of Batavia because of what may happen with this whole thing with when you don't have as much coming into the pipe as you had previously. So I don't know where all this is going. I'm just sharing it with you as kind of the latest gossip in the neighborhood or in the state. But this does appear that this is going to be a very challenging time, but it won't start till probably after the first of the year when the Illinois General Assembly comes into play. And then, of course, at that same time, we'll be bringing on a new administration in Washington, and I don't know who that's going to be. But there certainly is a lot of supposition out there that, they're going to have a political reality opportunity in Washington as to what they can and can't buy and spend and whatever. And so I would suggest that as we get into the budget process, and I think our staff is well prepared us for it, But there's going to be some, I think have to have some honest conversations here about things that we may want to do, that we may want to delay for a while, or whatever we're thinking, because I'm not sure how ready the funds are going to be here to do some of this stuff, given all the other forces outside of Batavia that we don't have any control over, that are going to have a direct impact on our budgetary numbers as they apply to revenues that we have flowing. And certainly, you know, we've got a couple of decisions. We got that tax on the sales tax on the subsidizing electric utility that we're going to have to talk about renewing, or whatever we're going to do with it. You remember we put that
July 17.
yeah, July 17 date on that. And then there's, you know, there's other things I think that'll come up in the budget process. So I would tell you that, you know, the last couple of years, because we have had maintained and hopefully will continue to be one of the lowest property tax cities in the region, that we've had kind of an easy time of it, because didn't have to make a lot of difficult decisions. I'm not so sure this year that we aren't going to have to make some difficult decisions, because there is a lot of forces that are swirling around us, and we'll see where it all runs out. But this next year or so is going to be very, very challenging as far as a government to be able to, you know, keep themselves head above water. And I'm confident with our finance department and our administration that we do have our head above water and we won't have the problem. But I would caution us that we don't want to get overly zealous in what it is we want to talk about here, because I don't know how much of the money is going to be there to do some of this stuff. With everything else, we've met the last few days with some other folks that are looking at housing opportunities and all this stuff, and a lot of it is predicated on them having the ability to go to the state and federal government and get tax credits and monies and all this. And the one that Alderman Brown just mentioned is a subsidized one. You know, from everything I'm hearing, I got to tell you, I worry about, not worry, but I question, you know, how easy it's going to be for some of these people who are telling us, well, I'm going off to Springfield or Washington and getting $5 or $10 million to build a senior facility in Batavia or whatever it is we're thinking about doing, because I'm not sure those monies are there anymore. And I'm not sure they're going to be with what the status is of the state and federal government. Because it's unlike anything. I've been here, as you know, quite a while. I've never seen anything quite like this. And this is not a real pleasant conversation, but I thought, well, tonight we don't have anything else on the agenda, so Mark Foster told me he needed something to write about. So I thought I'll throw that one out at us, because it's there and we all need to be upfront with it and honest with our constituency out there about what it is we can and cannot do. I can proudly say that the city of Batavia we're standing very tall in the financial arena in comparison to many others, so we don't have that to worry about. But I want to caution us about what it is we think we want to spend in the future. So, that out of the way, Alderman Brown, I guess I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn the city council meeting.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Brown, second by Alderman Rosado. Clerk, take a voice vote.
All in favor?
Thank you.